Hey everyone, welcome back to my writing test series. Today we have a new question. Let's see, why do people spend more hours at the workplace? Why does this happen? And is it a positive or negative development? This is yet another two-part question. I think these have been getting pretty popular lately, but anyway, let's get to work. So, first things first, why does this happen? So, why do people spend more time at the workplace? You have to respond to that. See, two-part question essays are very straightforward, so that's, of course, I think that's a good thing. It's not like opinion essays where you need to pick a side and then, talk about that, or discursive essays or disadvantage essays where you have to really balance your point of view. So it's very straightforward, and that's a good thing. Okay, so I've got my setup here. Okay, main ID 1 and main ID 2. Okay, so why does this happen? I need to respond to that. So why do more people find themselves working increasingly more hours? Why is that? I think I would say, and again, remember, this is entirely, it's your point of view. So you don't have to think, oh, what really is, the biggest contributing factor, because everyone has a different point of view about things, right? You might see a situation in one way, but someone else might see it differently. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay. I personally think it's because we have become a very competitive society. So, and not just competition, but also the fact that we really want to show everyone that we're good, we're great, we're better than everyone else. I think that's the reason. So let's see, how am I gonna frame that into a sentence? Why does this happen? Let's see, society, or rather people, have become more competitive due to changes in society. I think especially now that we're kind of facing a recession head on, this becomes even more true. At least over the past, I think, 2 years, we've seen this happen. So it's, again, you might have a different point of view, and that's perfectly legitimate. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I have my second main idea. Is this positive or negative? I think it's bad, because work is not life. This naturally has led to, or can lead to, a host of long-ranging problems that few can foresee. When you're burnt out from working too much or working a job you don't like, or just the pressures of work, it doesn't even have to be, you can be burnt out doing a job you like. Very few people know that. And you can't really foresee it. Like, you cannot predict that, oh, I'm doing this and this is going to have problems, later down the road. Lots of people so we don't have that foresight, right? It's only when you're neck deep in the problem that you realize, oh my God, okay, I have a problem, right? So few people can actually foresee that. And that's it. That's good enough. I'm gonna get my ideas. I think good jobs are fewer. I think that's always the case anyway, because of rising population. There's lots of competition, and people want to prove they are good. They want to achieve things, because our sense of worth tied to our position, achievements, etc. I'm typing real fast, so ignore if there's like typos and stuff, because that doesn't matter anyway. Okay, and what else? Why else would somebody spend more time? They just want to earn more money, right? Life is getting expensive. Simple, right? This leads to a whole host of long-ranging problems. So what kind of long-ranging problems? Burnout. I think I can group that in with mental health issues. I can also have physical ailments, and What else? What else? You've got a whole bunch of people who are working themselves to the bone, and maybe they're not. I mean, just because you're working more doesn't mean you're productive. Yeah, wrong work culture. Especially where I live, people have the idea that I'll spend 10 hours, 11 hours at work, and I'm going to be thought of as a better employee. That's really wrong. I mean, it's just really backward just because you're spending 10, 12 even, hours at work. I mean, it's inefficient. Because if you could just spend 5 hours and get your work done, isn't that better? But, people don't, especially employers who are old fashioned, like Elon Musk, for example. Don't come at me if you're an Elon Musk fanboy or fangirl. I'm not criticizing the man, but I am saying that he expects everyone to work 40 hours a week, be in the office. Now, he comes from a different generation. He's 50 years old. He has a different idea of work. And he's not wrong that he's, slept on the factory floor. I mean, I'm a business owner myself. I've worked a lot, right? And yes, that is important. You have to. There's no other way. But when you're an employee, you don't have the same level of investment or commitment. It's not your company. You're just an employee. You just collect a salary. That's all. Maybe you have some benefits, whatever. And now, I mean, just think about it. Medieval peasants, really. I'm not kidding. You can look this up. They had more holidays. They worked fewer hours than modern humans did. And remember, like 500, 600 years ago, we didn't have electricity. We didn't have food processors, washing machines. We didn't have things like these, vacuum cleaners, dishwashers, microwaves. We didn't have all of this. So the question remains, why are we working even more when we could be working less and achieving the same results? You can work more and you can achieve better results. Now, that's of course valid. But just to work, just to look busy, like they do in Japan, I think that's really, really it's messed up. Anyway, enough ranting. I'll get straight to my introduction. So you see how it's been 8 minutes since I started the live stream. Of course, I've been talking to you during this time, but I already have my main ideas. I already have my supporting ideas. A big, part of my work here is done. So I'm going to write my introduction. Let's see. It is common now, and a lot of these, so you'll probably notice that I tend to have 2 sentence introductions for the most part. And there's also, if you're a student of mine watching the video, you already have access. I just finished, actually it's not finished, I have 5 more sentences to write, but I'll do that as soon as I'm done with this video. So you'll see there's a few sentences, well, not a few, actually there's more than 100, that you can kind of just read and get a really good idea for all, kinds of topics like sports, weather, climate, science, work, right? So I have pre-made sentences. So I would recommend checking that out. And if you're not a student and you would like a copy of it, actually you can message me and I can send it to, or maybe I can just make it available on my website. Okay, so it is common now for people to work excessive hours, or people to work excessively despite labor-saving devices, right? Despite labor-saving devices and technology. It's, ignore the red line. Okay, there we go. And technological advancements. For example, labor-saving devices, of course, are really just, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a washing machine. It can even be a computer. You don't have to do all your math by hand, right? You just have your phone, you have your you have a computer for complex, calculations. And of course, you have, for example, let's say that you're an advertiser or a marketer, and well, now of course we can measure results. We can measure our campaigns. We can measure the return percentages and all of that very efficiently, right? Right down to really tiny percentages, but I mean 15, 20 years ago, that really wasn't possible, right? So we've got machine learning. We have all of these really powerful machines doing all of this thinking, working for us. So it really doesn't make sense to me that we're spending even more time working, unless of course we're you know, looking for increased output, right? That makes sense. It is common now for people to work excessively despite labor saving. And you know, a lot of people actually have a second job, they have a third job. Uh, you know, that's just the nature of things. You know, it's no longer really common for people to have like one, you know, permanent job, right? People get laid off all the time. Of course, well, that's just a reality. That's just a fact of life. You really can't debate that. But it's more common that somebody has like, oh, I work, you know, 2 hours here, I work 2 hours somewhere else, and you know, I have a gig or something. That's become really common, not just among teenagers, but even like, you know, older people, like adults and stuff like that. So right, debating device and technological advancements, making taking a lot of work out of work, essentially. um, Taking a lot of, okay, let me just think about it, because if I'm talking I find it difficult to write, like get a clear, you know, really strong idea here. So mhm. Excessively, and consider their devotion to work a badge of honor. I work 80-hour weeks. I work 90-hour weeks, and you just kind of, you're so proud of it. Like, oh, look at me, I work so much, I don't have a life. Right, there we go. Attitudes towards work and achievement, but are responsible. This is largely leading to far-reaching negative consequences, or you know, far-reaching repercussions. For those that behave this way. There we go. That's it. I have my main ideas, and you know, once you get started with body paragraphing, it's pretty easy. It doesn't take much time. You've already thought about it, so you don't have to spend so much time thinking, ooh, what do I write here, right? You don't have to do all of that. Okay, so people have become more okay, I have to look at my ideas, see if they're arranged well, or if I could, you know, change and tweak things around. I think maybe this should be number one. This is like the most important thing. And then this one looks good now. Oops. There we go. The most obvious, I would say, it's a constant. Life always gets more expensive. Has life ever gotten cheaper? Not unless you take advantage of currency arbitration and you change where you live. Maybe you live somewhere in North America or Europe, and you go and, you know, like retire in Thailand or something. Then you benefit. Life gets cheaper, right? But I mean, that's not the case for most people. So okay, the most obvious reason is the undebatable fact. I mean, I don't know if I want to write undebatable. Let me just write this. Like, okay, this is good. The most obvious reason for this is the fact that life seems to always get more expensive. prices never seem to decrease. And as a result, people need to work harder to accumulate more money, to as a hedge, right? Uncertain futures. There we go, right? That's exactly, I mean, that's the most basic, the most simple reason. You don't know what lies ahead. You don't know what kind of emergencies, what kind of problems you're going to have. Maybe you think that 10 years from now I'm going to need this much money, but it's not going to be the same amount of money, right? You're going to need more because the value of money just decreases. Like, no matter what we do, there's always inflation, right? Doesn't matter where you live. It's just a fact, right? You need to work harder. There we go. Another, I would say that it's also equally important, right? There's so much competition. In conjunction with rising prices, rising cost of living, actually, it has also become harder to find good jobs with good benefits, well-paying jobs, right? Because people feel the need to really make themselves stand out with their work ethic. Right? Harder to find and keep, right? You could get fired anytime. So you really want to show your boss or your manager or your supervisor, look at me, I'm such a workhorse. Like, like I'm so dedicated, right? So they don't fire you. And finally, people want to prove they're good. Changes in society. Okay, that ties in. You should always look at your main idea sentence and see, does this match my supporting ideas? Yes or no? That is super important, and it's never going to be a waste of your time. Too often people don't really think when they're writing. That's a huge mistake. Yeah, got to be careful. Okay. Right, and then my last one. Would you look at that? It's only been like 18 minutes and we're already halfway through the essay. That's pretty good. That's not too shabby. Okay. Let me see. Another major consideration, perhaps? Let me think about this. Because competition is so high that people feel the need to really make themselves stand out with their work ethic. Naturally, they want to prove to their superiors, or rather bosses. Always use clear language when you can, right? Supervisors, that they really deserve, that they truly deserve their positions. And society also tends to value people based on their achievements and career achievements. Which lead people to base their self-worth on their let me see, on the quality of their work, right? On the quality of their work. I mean, I think I kind of talked about this in the last essay as well, that we have this idea that I am what I do, instead of I am what I do by profession, right? So we associate our personality with our jobs, yeah, and the quality of their work as perceived. But if I work really well but nobody recognizes that, then I'm not going to feel good about it. But if I work like 10, 12 hours each day and I get recognized for that, then I'm going to feel good about it, right? So, yeah. Macro level change. And let me see. Individual choices and values about work. There we go. Let me check the word count. Looks good though. Oh, that's 159. Oh, well, that's actually reasonably sized compared to what I usually tend to write. That's not bad at all. Okay, and then I have the next one. Wow, this one's... oh, it's very smooth today. Probably because I'm not really kind of going off topic and talking too much about random things, but I love explaining. Okay, again, I have to check these ideas, okay? So I think that's good, looks good. I think this is the most important thing, right? It's hidden, right? And that's why it's such a big problem, right? Like if you, let's say you get an injury, you can see the injury, right? And so you can fix it. But if you have a mental health problem, you can't see your mental health problems, right? And often, I mean, we don't really have the skills to diagnose ourselves either. So that's quite difficult, really. It's a hidden problem. Okay. Perhaps the most dangerous of all is the fact that people develop mental health illnesses, which just they simmer below the surface. Like I said, you can't really see a mental health illness. You can see an injury, but you can't see anxiety, depression, stuff like that. So, yeah, such as anxiety or depression, which are difficult to spot, as they are always use full forms. They're not externally visible. Unlike injuries. Like of course. As working from an office where one sits for many hours, you have bad posture, you're always like hunched over, right? It's completely unnatural. Spinal leads to, you have, for example, there's this thing called RSI, repetitive strain injury. You have, wrist issues, thumb issues. It's so common, and leads to, not really an illness, but repetitive strain injury, spinal problems, spinal degeneration. What's that thing called? I think it's called, I don't know the exact term. Of course, it's a medical term, that's why I don't know it. I think it's called, let me just think about it. What's that thing called when your neck is all, I think it's called scoliosis or something. I don't think that's really because of, scoliosis is actually, it's I think it's genetic, in fact. Let me think. What else? I mean, I've suffered neck pain, so I can talk about that. Oh yes, Spondylitis. I think it's called spondylosis, in fact. Let me think about it. I don't want to write something that's wrong, yeah? I could probably. I think spinal degeneration is fine. You can use medical terms if you want to, if you're sure, yeah? Because again, if I say spinal degeneration, it covers a lot more than just, spondylosis. So, yeah. Repetitive strain injury. I know repetitive strain injury, so I can use that. I know that for sure. There's issues with the neck and other common. Neck ache. Okay, I'm gonna leave that out because of course spine is connected to the neck. To name just a few. Okay, let me just read because I haven't finished this actually. Perhaps the most dangerous follows the fact that people develop mental health illnesses such as anxiety or depression, which are difficult to spot as they're not externally visible, unlike injuries. Which means that people suffer silently for a long time and it causes a lot of damage, yeah, and may never even be diagnosed. All the while continuing. This is gonna be huge, so I don't want to write so much. It's kind of pointless to write, like a huge thing. So silently for a long time and never even be diagnosed. Physical ailments, of course, are also common. It's just unnatural. There is no movement. You sit at a desk for what, 8, 10, 15 hours? Crazy. And I do that, so I'm kind of a hypocrite. Stranger, to name a few. And what else? There's also this thing when I was young. Oh, carpal tunnel, yes. It was super common when I was a child. We had this people would be so freaked out because back then we had to text using like both of our fingers. You had those tiny keypads and lots of people were like, I mean, yeah, people still do. If you use your phone a lot, you get like problems with your thumb. Yeah, it's crazy, and some of these issues can even be permanent. Yeah, RSI, for example, takes a long time to fix RSI. So, yeah. And finally, wrong kind of work culture. Okay, let me look at my transitions because it's really important that you transition smoothly from one sentence to the next, right? You can, of course, use in addition, moreover, furthermore, etc. I tend to not use them as much because I would really like to do something better than that. But that's good enough for a 7, 7.5. It's good enough. There's nothing wrong with that at all, so don't worry about that. Let me see. I have to think of a good phrase, yeah? I don't want to just write the bare minimum. Let me see. Oh, and I am publishing all of these essays in book form, maybe next month or so. At the moment, I just have 25 of these, but I'm hoping to get that to 45 or something. The more, the merrier, right? Okay, let's see what else I could add here. I've got the work culture thing, but I really want to present it correctly. So, let's see what I can do here. Gotta think about that. Okay. All of these are a wrong. When I say wrong kind of work culture, what do I mean? Emphasis on efficiency, yeah, or productivity. It is not only, yeah. society as a whole also suffers when such working habits or practices lead to an unhealthy work culture being fostered, as there is less emphasis on efficiency and productivity and more emphasis on simply looking. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're productive, right? One is busy or preoccupied, as is the case in countries like Japan. In Japan, people will take naps at work, right? Because they want to look like they have to, right? They want to look like, oh, I'm working so hard and I'm so tired, right? That I'm napping at work. Look how hardworking I am. So yeah, it's obviously unhealthy. Oh, that's a little bit bigger than I expected. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this difference. Let me see what I can change. Yeah. As working from an office, or one sits for hours, right? Hunched over a screen is unnatural and leads to ailments such as arthritis. Okay. Such working habits lead to an unhealthy work culture being fostered. Okay, good. Again, I'm not very happy with the difference here, but let me change that later. So hence, if this trend, or if this is encouraged, if such behavior is encouraged, it leads to nothing good. I mean, no good can come from it. There we go. That's good. There we go. And finally, my conclusion. So, wow, that was quick. So, in conclusion, 8-7. That I've talked about how it's not a good practice. Obviously, I've said society. Okay, that although it is I mean, considered normal now, yeah, to work beyond one's regular 9 to 5 as a badge of honor, as something to be proud of. It is completely, I feel like it's just unethical, but then people choose to work. So I mean, if somebody forces you to work, then it's unethical. So it wouldn't be the right term to use. Yeah, of course you have to be careful what kind of words you're using. It is completely unnecessary and needs to be done away with as soon as possible due to its disastrous consequences for all of society. Right? If this practice continues to be promoted, it will lead to major, I would say, let me think, continues to lead to major dissatisfaction and frustration. I think that's good enough. Yeah? Major not just dissatisfaction, but like there's going to be a culture of people just revolt against the idea of work. There already is, in fact, lots of people. They're against the idea, of like, why should I work for so long? Like, why should I even have to work a 9 to 5? That's crazy. Lots of countries are thinking about just a 4-day work week. Of course, the hours are different, but it makes sense. Why? It's such an old-fashioned idea. It'll lead to rebellion, yeah, just dissatisfaction, frustration, and rebellion. There we go. That's the whole thing. And let's have a look at our word count. That's good. Oh, it's kind of large. Okay, well, that's just how I write. So there we go. There we have our introduction. Body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 2. You can pause the screen to have a look. And the last one. Conclusion. And that took just... how many minutes is that? 35? 36? That's with all the talking. So you see how... I mean, it just took me 36 minutes to do the whole thing. You know, and again, this is like 458 words. You don't even have to write this much. You could probably just lop off this entire thing here from both paragraphs, and that's it. If I can do it to this degree, you can do it as well. Of course, the quality of work is going to be different, but time is not a problem. It's good enough. They've given you enough time, yeah? Okay, well, I'll hopefully see you then maybe tomorrow or on Friday. I'm trying to do 3 a week. I was supposed to do one yesterday, but I forgot about it. So maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe I'll see you on Friday. And of course, if you have any suggestions for what I should do, if you would like me to do something,